Okay, hello everybody and welcome to this panel discussion titled Readying for a Sustained Comeback in the FMCG Sector. How should businesses align priorities with opportunities? Hello everybody, my name is Stuart Coleman. I'm the Business Director for Industry 4.0 at Becker. I have over 25 years experience working across various industry sectors, 20 of these being with Becker. For those not familiar with Becker, we're a multidisciplinary professional services firm with over 3,500 people across Asia Pacific region, and we see ourselves in the leaders of digitalisation of assets and supply chains in our respected areas of industry strength. A lot of my experience personally has been in food and beverage and FMCG sectors, working first as an automation engineer, then a project manager, and then a business manager on projects up to $4 billion in capital. Right across the asset life cycle, including operations and maintenance and demolition. Over the last 4 years, I've been leading Becker's Industry 4.0 strategy, which includes new digital services to help our clients digitalise their assets and supply chains, new digital products, integrating digitalisation into our outputs and everything we do at Becker. I'm pleased to be moderating this panel. This is an exciting opportunity, and I'm joined by some very esteemed people. I'm joined by Adi S. Lukman, the Chairman of the Indonesian Food and Beverage Association, or GABMI in short, and Mr. Lee Chong Leong, International Account Manager for Consumer Packaged Goods at Schneider Electric. Thanks for being with us. Before I start, can I invite each of you to briefly share just 1 to 2 minutes of some of your background with our audience on your organisation, your activities in the FMCG sector, and maybe some of your latest activities in the COVID-19 period. Who wants to go first?
Adi?
Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's honored to be part of the panel discussion today. My name is Lee Chong Leong. I'm the International Account Manager for the Consumer Packaged Goods covering life science, household personal care, and food and beverage segments across Schneider Electric in East Asia and Japan plus Pacific zone. So I've been about 30 years of my life in Schneider Electric, so covering all the aspects from industry automation, energy and sustainability services before we venture into these end users oriented segments. So in Schneider, we have been evolving for many years from a very hardware oriented, solutions oriented organization into a little bit more flexible in terms of catering to the segments needs of the industry. Over the last couple of years, Schneider Electric EcoStructure strategy has helped customers to combine IT and OT capabilities with a securely knitted cybersecurity platforms. Be it Industry 4.0 or digital transformation, our own manufacturing facilities eat the same food as the customers does. We have easily now, I think, about 10 lighthouses around the world, recognized by World Economic Forum since the late 2019. So I think during these last couple of months, we have been quite busy taking care of customers by prioritizing reactivity to stoppage situations. In many ways, fix first and pay later. Also from a sales perspective, I'm pretty drawn down over this period of time. Many big targets and big projects, promises and pipelines has been deferred. I'm sure you remember January 2020. Everyone's talking about big KPI, big expectation for 2020. All right, all this at the background of a very prosperous 2019. But once COVID lands in March or February this year, all of us have to compete for the last drop of our sweat to secure projects that's already been budgeted for 2020. Otherwise, I think over this last 1 year has been very interesting. It's very, very different from whatever I've seen in the last 30 years of my career in Schneider and in the world. But again, I enjoyed it. Up to you, Slogan.
Perfect. Thank you, Lee Chong. Adi, how would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Okay, thank you, Stuart. It's a great honor for me to be here in this panel discussions. Well, I'm Adi Lukman, Chairman of Indonesian Food and Beverage Industry Association. I take care for the food industry in Indonesia, from SMEs to the medium big companies, including multinational companies. Yes, of course, because the food and beverage is one of the priority industry in Indonesia. It's play a big important role in Indonesia economic, because the F&B is also one of the sector who defined as implementing Making Indonesia 4.0. That is the implementation of Industry 4.0 in Indonesia. Indonesia already defined 7 sectors to implement Industry 4.0. One of them is F&B industry. And as mentioned by Chong Leong, of course, F&B industry also impacted by pandemic COVID-19. When ending of the 2019, we have a very big optimistic for 2020 will be much better than 2019. And we at that time we predict our growth in 2020 become around 9% year on year. After 2019, our growth is only 7.95. Unfortunately, since March, government announced the pandemic COVID-19, and then everything's changed. So that's why we change our predictions, and hopefully, after, when we still has positive growth, even not as big as 2019. Enjoy these discussions, and we do hope will be valuable for all of you to enjoy this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Adi. That was great. Okay, just okie dokie. So let's get the first question kicked off. So it's fair to say that COVID-19 has severely impacted many industry sectors. And although the FMCG sector has managed to perform relatively well, the landscape's changed. Consumer and demand behaviours have shifted quite drastically due to the pandemic. The FMCG stakeholders are also facing disruptions to productions, operations, supply chains and distributions, and all this has introduced new risk, new opportunities and challenges in addition to pre-COVID issues with performance, efficiencies and business resilience. So we'd heard stories, shortages with toilet paper. My country was very famous for this. And other consumer goods early in the pandemic where manufacturers and distributions failed to anticipate the changes in purchase behaviours and demands. Things have stabilised and improved a little bit now, but the fact remains that many did not foresee the change, and who would have, in demand for that category of FMCG. So do you think manufacturers and supply chain partners will be better able to respond if this happens in the future, say for a different category of foods? Mr. Luckman, what do you think?
Well, okay, let's do it. Of course, every sector impacted by COVID-19. Fortunately, our industry sector still positive growth in the midst of the negative growth of Indonesian economic. Indonesian economic minus 5.3%. Our F&B growth in the second quarter is only 0.22%. Some of the product categories still growing, like milk, spices, frozen food, canned food, and also functional and nutritional food is still growing because this is a demand of to boost our immune during the pandemic COVID-19. And in general, yes, manufacturers have to adjust the decreasing of the demand because of COVID-19. Many activities stop, tourism stop, and of course this also impact to the buying power. And people in the medium low class people now they struggling for the buying power, but for the medium high class populations they still have money. Unfortunately, they cannot buy what they are needed as free as usual normal in the normal condition. So that's why they also reduce some consumptions. They reduce some buying. So and of course during the pandemic 19, some of the category product like functional food it's increasing so much because people now is concerned about the health, concerned about also food safety. and also concerned about the how to boost their immune. So that's why in this category, demand is increasing so much. And to address these changes, of course, the manufacturer have to adjust the productions, and we now trying to adjust to the demand. And some of the factory reducing the production capacity because not only because of demand, but also in Indonesia government request our industry to do the physical distancing in the manufacturing as well. So that's why we have to reduce the number of the workers, and we have to relay out our manufacturing. And some of our member are starting to relay out and doing the automation in the factory because we have to keep our capacity and with reducing the workforce. So that's why automation is one of the way to keep our capacity still in place. And of course, also to keep our more food safety and also for efficiency. So that's why in line with our government planning to implement Industry 4.0 in Indonesia. So this is the time for us to accelerate the implementations. So that's why now many companies now thinking how to speed up the shifting from the manual to the automation and also implement the IoT for make more efficiency still.
That's great. So do you think there's less likely to be a disruption in the future to supply chains if we had another lockdown period or further disruptions?
Yes, during the lockdown, of course, some disruption in the logistics, especially for the fresh raw materials, and also for the distribution of the cold chains distribution. This is because Indonesia is not ready for serve the cold chains distributions. And the other side, frozen food demand is increasing so much. So that's why this is also one of the challenging in Indonesia, how to speed up to provide the cold chain logistic and distributions. And for the finished product, I think it's okay. We can manage well the distributions during the lockdown because the government still allow our industry running, including for distribution.
That's great. No, thank you for that answer.
Yeah.
Mr. Lee Chong, what are your thoughts?
I like what Mr. Adi has mentioned about the chain of supply chain, the distributions, the ready stock up of the food and so on in anticipation for the second happening. But back to your question, Stuart, I think it's happening now, like probably 2 months back, the COVID cases about 20 million worldwide, and now we are almost close to 40 million. I think it's coming back again. So without doubt, don't you think? So it really, as it like your question, how do we respond if it happens again?
Yes.
I think in general, once bitten, twice shy. Who wants to be bitten again, right? Everyone's out there, but I've been through this morning. I was with the customers, and so we said, "Are you ready if the next one's going to happen again?" And the customers' consensus is pretty much, "Bring it on, we are ready." So we have follows what Adi has mentioned just now. Get all the departments, gets everything ready for the next happening. But I think in general, the FMCG operations are really adapting. All right, so it's still in progress to a new normal day by day. What is learning, what is crucial here, I think, is that real life COVID lockdown, which has rarely occurs in the last 10, 20 years, provided a real life situation for everyone to document down all these vital and well-tuned standard operating procedures that can help us do better when it happens again. I think that's important. Whether it's the manufacturers or supply chain partners, I think this script has been well crafted and ready to be executed again, and even with better fluency. So I think that's my view. And from a technological suppliers and solution provider standpoint, my observation will say those who had already enterprise-wide ERP, model-driven MES systems, automated production traceability, and end-to-end control system may have some advantage over those who are still manual and semi-automate. I think that's my take on this, Steve.
No, that's great. You've raised some pretty valid points. So I think that while everybody's scrambling to implement Industry 4 technologies to prevent disruption, I guess, if there were second waves or third waves, the point I think we're seeing here is this was best practice anyway. It's just it's focused us to start bringing these technologies into the forefront and take advantage of them now. But if you were doing this beforehand, you would have been taking advantage of those. So so great answers. Thank you both. Okay, Mr. Lookman, food and FMCG manufacturers are significant industry sectors in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Could you share what has been the situation for manufacturers, suppliers and the supply chain during the pandemic? So let's start with how was production workforce arrangements, resourcing and distribution affected?
Yeah, okay, I will talk in general. As I mentioned, in the end of 2019 or early 2020, we have optimist that 2020 is much better than 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And many companies, manufacturers start preparing the increasing of the production, everything from material we prepare. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 is coming, and still in the first quarter, our F&B growth still 3.9%, and after government announced on March, it's shocking to all community, all manufacturer, all players, and suddenly in the second quarters, our economic stop, and because suddenly demand decreased so much, and many factories temporarily closed, and fortunately for some of the categories still running. So that's why in the second quarter, our growth is only 0.22%. But after adapting the situations, and then players, also manufacturers, adapting the situation and implement the health protocols, and then start from June, July, August, become better and better, and now it's much better compared to the second quarter. The second quarter is the worst in the 2020. So we still believe that the FMCG food and beverage will still okay in the 2020, and our prediction is maybe we still can get a growth around 2 to until 3% in 2020. Of course, it's not normal because our growth normal is around 7 to 9% yearly. So that's why this is abnormal. But we still have optimism because the government still support us with some incentive to the community. Government give some incentive to the workers, incentive to the SMEs, and also some gives us some money for the community to increase the buying power. So this is our optimistic. So that's why we work together with the government hand in hand to overcome the impact of the COVID-19. We still hope in the 2021, our prediction will be much better, because I heard yesterday that our government already prepared for the vaccine in the end of November until early this year. So that's why this is we build our optimistic towards 2021.
That's good. Now, you mentioned government incentives. Are there any incentives to adopt technologies?
Yes. Now, just a few days ago, we are discussing with the government, especially the Ministry of Industry. Government planning to give some incentive to the manufacturer who implement Industry 4.0 for improve the efficiency, to improve the capacity, and also to improve the competitiveness. So we work like with some technology provider, and one of them is Schneider. Schneider of very support to our industry. They have a lighting house in Batam, and also in and we Schneider already provides several training for our manufacturer, and we have a program what we call it a transformer manager, and implementing Industry 4.0. Indonesia also has what we call it the INDI. INDI is in index for measure how the readiness index for the implementation of Indonesian making Indonesia 4.0.
Okay, very good. So is it built off the
last
theory?
year? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Very
that's
good.
why we hope the government soon will release the new regulation to support the implementing of Industry 4.0.
That's great. And are the businesses getting behind this? Is it changing the way they're thinking about technology adoption?
Yes, of course. And not only medium big companies, but government also thinking about the SMEs. SMEs also need to implement this technology with simple technology, but implementing integrated automation, and also using the big data, IoT, everything for the small and medium enterprises.
Yes, okay. And is the cost of labour, is that a barrier to some of the implementation?
Yes, cost labor, of course, this is one of the challenging in Indonesia. So that's why the government now our parliament approved what we call it omnibus law to improve some regulations, including the workforce and for the workers, and we hope this will be more conducive for our industry to improve our competitiveness in the global market.
Very good. That makes a lot of sense. Can I ask Mr. Lee Chong your thoughts on the same question? Let's talk about some of your experiences with the clients, I guess.
I think my experience, again, just from a Schneider Electric standpoint, we were very happy to work with the government. Mr. D mentioned early on, we have been on this journey since I think more than 1.5 years. So with the government's board, FMB bodies, we have make efforts not just about training that he mentioned. It's also about looking at the way Schneider Electric set up our factories to be Industry 4.0 ready, and then make that learning together, go to the SMEs out there and show them how the way forward. It's not just about technology. I think it's more about people. It's more about showing them what is really working, and how does that help to kind of improve efficiency, improve the risk assessment, the safety aspects, the production's performance of the entire FMCG scenario. But coming back to the real technology, I would say basically Industry 4.0 is not new.
Yes.
Digital transformation is not new.
Yeah.
It's happened in the trends with the big shows like I can mention ITEP, Hanover Mess, ProPack, Pack Expo, I don't know, whatever events that has been happening around the world for the last 2-3 years. These topics has been there all along. The only good news, I think, with the help of COVID, all right, so credit to COVID, I would say, it helps to accelerate the momentum, which otherwise could have been another year where everyone is happy flying to Germany, flying to US, attend events, having a coffee with each other, attend learnings, get certification, but never been put in real life practice. I think for once, I would say credit to COVID, it has helped us, help Becca, help Schneider Electric, help Adi, in a sense like, okay, I think we need to do it real. Otherwise, we lose behind.
Yeah.
So I would say COVID forced Industry 4.0 and digitalization to accelerate in real.
Yeah.
It is a good knee-jerk situation as wake up the entire organization from top to bottom to collaborate for a more digital reality.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking at it itself, I think everyone since many years back, it's always we set a strategy. All right, we do it small and then we scale up and then we get all the people, we do the transformation and change management together. So I would say around this very simple philosophy of doing something new, what we as a technological partner is just to wrap it around with something that we provide in terms of how do we automate this data and how do we bring it towards making better decision, making more efficient, making more performance in the factory. That's my view on it.
No, it's great. I couldn't agree more. The technologies are all mature in their own individual rights. Joining them together and being motivated to pursue what those benefits are, definitely a benefit of COVID if there is a silver lining from this.
Yeah.
For once, we give credit to COVID.
Yeah, I agree with Chong Leong. The COVID-19 pushed us to accelerate the implementation 4.0. Yeah, and to shifting from human to human contact to human to machine interface. This is one positive thing because of COVID-19.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more with all of those comments. It's a frustration that it's taken so long to get going, and hopefully we keep continuing on the trajectory because there's lots of benefits to be had, and we're only just tip of the iceberg of it. So great to hear.
Yeah.
What do you think the barriers are to Industry 4 implementation? And I'll start with you, Adi.
Yeah, of course the barriers. Of course the capability of the workforce.
Yes.
This is the human development. It's a must. Otherwise, we'll be left behind. And then the second is facilities, infrastructure, yes. IT infrastructure, and also data security. Cyber data security is very important also to implement the Industry 4.0 because we have to integrate the data from end to end, and then we have to make all data secure and companies convenience to implement the integration end to end. And the other things, of course, we need more capitals, and the others also we need more technology provider. As frankly speaking, in Indonesia, we lack of the technology provider. Some of the vendor already full capacity, they cannot make more services, and then we have to work together with other countries like Singapore. Our minister already make a MOU with Singapore, and also just today we talk about it with Taiwan, and of course New Zealand. Becca also involved in the New Tech Day last time, and also from other countries, we need more collaborations to provide the technology, and the other things is regulations and incentive from the governments. We need more regulations to in implementing the Industry 4.0 because this is quite new. Not only Indonesia, I think, but all over the world. And for example, the cross-border transaction is also the regulation is, I think, left behind. This is one of the impact of the Industry 4.0. So that's why this is the barriers we have to discuss. We have to prepare together with governments, and we believe if we work together, and then we can overcome all everything, the barriers.
Right. Okay. Now, so COVID-19 aside, and we've talked about some of the barriers. Do you think the motivators are obvious? Do you think our executives are fully motivated? They understand the applications of the digital technologies? You do?
Yeah, so that's why we have to, because of COVID-19, we have to make to adapt the technology. This otherwise we cannot improve our capacity. We cannot make our full capacity, everything. So that's why this is accelerate our implementation.
It's that capacity or the efficiencies. Most people are looking at the cost benefits of those efficiencies.
Yes.
But if you're limited with power, those efficiencies translate to more output, and that's quite an important motivator, I'd say. And maybe they're quite clearer in Indonesia than maybe are, and certainly Australia and New Zealand. I find the motivators are not front and center as much as they should be. There's lots of white papers, but it's not as motivating as building a brand new greenfield facility, which people will flock to easier than they will, say, a complex digital project. So it is an interesting dilemma.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll invite Mr. Lee Chong to have a comment on that. Do you want to talk through some of the barriers you might see from your clients and your perspective?
I think I probably like 101% agree with what Adi has mentioned, the capex, government, funding, incentive. Those are really real life. Every time, so when customers or end users come to think, okay, let's implement this new AI stuff. Okay, it's about capex, about money. Where do we get the money? What's the return on investment? So I mean, from a technology provider standpoint, that is real. It doesn't change just because of COVID. So you've been seeing the last 100 years when you need to put something new, and everyone has been telling you this is great, you must do it now, that kind of thing. But it costs you $5 million, so they will say, oh, okay, come on. so I think being what we are doing here, so we are sitting down. Becca is a consulting companies, technologicals, really very advanced, has many use cases similar to Schneider's and all my other competitors. So I think if I were to add on to what Adi has mentioned early on, what is important is for the FMCG's community out there is really to be able to accelerate this transformation by picking the partner that you're comfortable with. Yeah, it can be Becca, it can be Schneider's, anybody else. But I think let's say you pick Schneider as a right partner, and then you have a relationship, a trusted relationship. I think let's build it on, because you know that we are the company who has tested it. We have our white lighthouse. We have gone through multiple use cases. We have success stories. So there's so much of things that we have done. It's really to respond to all your doubts, so that at the end of the day you can make a informed decision and move forward. So surely these technologies will incur a cost. So at the end of the day, we go to RD to look for some funding. Oh, yes, there's funding, that's fine. But on the other way, if let's say the other part of it is not being funded, how can we return on ROI? How can we make our facility better? Does it raise the brand value of my products and stuff like that? I think those are also important points. From company perspective, so usually a company would reserve a certain amount of the margins into R&D, all right, of new products. I would say those money, why not you reserve quite a substantial amount of money into Industry 4.0 and digital transformation, because that itself is not just about investment for the future, but it's also about your brand image. So the new world, the next 10 years, 20 years is about digital. The youngsters out there will look upon companies, this company is not just making chocolate, but their chocolate is on Facebook, is on Instagram, is on TikTok, that kind of thing. So it's sexy, right? So I think from a long-term perspective, there's advantage not just about spending this capex, but that brand image is important. And the trusted partners, build a relationship there. You have leverage the price advantage by having a good pricing agreement or program agreement with the suppliers, and then go on from there. So that journey itself to really cut it down, because traditionally everything you do, you compare with 5 quotations, right? But now if you limit down to 1 or 2, that you can move faster. That's my view.
Yeah. And don't forget implementation 4.0, it's not only in the manufacturer side, but also end-to-end from upstream to downstreams. And also we have to absorb the data from the consumers' demands, customize, and then we have to translate to the manufacturer, and then manufacturer translate to the upstream for the procurement. So that's why this is need more integrations end to end.
No, it's very true, and it's very true about the engagement of the workforce. It solves two really big problems in industry, and one is the outgoing workforce and all of the information that's walking out the door. 25 years of experience that's just leaving businesses due to retirement and natural attrition, and so we can digitalize that information of those people, but that same digitalization can engage the younger workforce to come and keep your industries going in the future. So it solves a lot of problems, and not all of them are that transparent to all of industry, but great insights. Now, just to close up, I just want to get your thoughts very quickly on what do you think maybe the three biggest opportunities are for the FMCG sector emerging from this period? What do you think post-COVID with the new digital understanding? What do you think the three biggest opportunities are for FMCG? I'll start with you, Artie, please.
Okay, and problem always there are some opportunities. So that's why we have to see these opportunities. For example, we have to adjust our product, we have to improve our capacity, we have to improve our competitiveness, and we have to improve ourselves. All peoples have to improve and to be ready to implement these transformations. Otherwise, we will left behind, and we will get some problem in the future. So that's why where there is an opportunity, we have to take it, and then we have to be ready to improve ourselves.
That's great. Thank you for that insight. And Mr. Lee Chong, what are your thoughts? What are the biggest opportunities?
Maybe for once I'll look at I think from let's say for this region, East Asia and Japan. I mean the large companies like Nestle, Ferrero, Mars. I think probably more or less they're ready. I think for many of the smaller industries, small players, my message is that small is agile. There's many advantages to be small rather than big, right? So when you're small, adoption of technologies in a smart way without big investment is really the key to enhance this new digital transformation. Empower the workers by ways of collaborating. How do we do things end to end, like what Adi mentioned, right? How do we bring the data from upstream to downstream, comes back to upstream in terms of the full traceabilities of what's happening in the FMCG's productions. And one of the things in Schneider's, besides looking at pinpoint solutions, we have also in the food and beverage, life science, we have built the end-to-end traceabilities advisor solutions that enables any players, small SMEs, to be able to digitize end-to-end by going with Schneider Electric, one point of context, whereby we can show you the ways how we look at upstream production and the downstream. So I think that the message is that finding a technology with the right spider is key step. Being small is agile, is a good thing for you. You would definitely have a notable advantage during this pandemic by going small, and then from there scale up, collaborate with everyone in the organization, and then start to go fast after that, scale up.
That's great. No, thank you for those insights. That has been great. There is plenty of opportunities. The FMCG industry is certainly one that understands change better than most industries. From what I can see from where I sit, it's adapted fairly well. But there are many opportunities. There's opportunities to improve business resilience. There's opportunities to improve output, to reduce costs, to improve your efficiencies, to integrate with supply chains. And if you're in Indonesia, there's opportunities to get more just by becoming more efficient, using less power up in production. So there's many opportunities in digitalization. The engagement of workforces and the digitalization of information or knowledge stored in outgoing workforces. So it's a great opportunity. We've been focused by COVID-19. The silver lining could be digitalisation. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you both. It's been great to have your insights. Very, very valuable. I've enjoyed the session. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank our audience too for joining us. I hope you found this conversation useful, and thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.